At a family barbecue, my sister-in-law boasted, "I'm selling the resort." She had no idea what was coming. Part 1. I still remember the smell of burning charcoal and overpriced cologne that day. It was one of those perfect suburban Saturdays, blue sky, trimmed lawns, fake smiles. My in-laws' backyard looked like a magazine spread. White folding chairs, a rented grill, a banner that read, "Family is everything." Ironic considering how disposable I'd always been to them. I stood near the lemonade table, plastic cup sweating in my hand, listening. That's when Rachel, my sister-in-law, laughed loud enough to silence the yard. "I'm selling the resort," she announced, swirling her wine like she was in a boardroom instead of a backyard. "Got 3 offers already. Honestly, I might retire early." Everyone turned toward her. Pride puffed her chest. My mother-in-law gasped dramatically. My father-in-law beamed like Rachel had personally cured cancer. And then they all looked at me. The quiet one, the widow, the woman they thought was nothing. Rachel tilted her head and smirked. "Must be nice to own something worth millions, right?" she said sweetly. She had no idea. The family that never chose me. I married into this family 8 years ago, back when I still believed love could overwrite class. My husband, Ethan, was the second son. Quiet, brilliant, overlooked. Rachel was married to the golden child, Mark, the loud businessman who talked more than he listened. From day one, I was an outsider. Rachel made sure of that. She commented on my clothes, my background, my lack of ambition. "Oh, you're just simple," she'd say, smiling like it was a compliment. When Ethan died suddenly, heart failure at 35, everything changed. Or rather, everything revealed itself. They stopped calling, stopped inviting, stopped pretending. At the funeral, Rachel hugged me just long enough to whisper, "Well, I guess life chose favorites." 3 months later, they tried to push me out of the family completely, but they failed because Ethan had secrets, and so did I, the resort everyone thought was hers. The Seabrook Ridge sat on the California coast. Cliffside views, private beach, celebrity weddings. Rachel loved telling people her husband owned it. Truth. Mark was just the loud face. Rachel played the role of boss wife, posting photos in silk dresses with captions like "built this from the ground up." But here's what no one knew. Resort wasn't built by Mark. It wasn't inherited by Rachel. And it wasn't legally theirs. It was financed quietly by a private holding company. A holding company registered under a name no one bothered to research my name. Why no one took me seriously? I never dressed expensive. I never talked big. I worked remotely, paid cash, kept quiet. Rachel mistook silence for stupidity. At family events, she'd ask me pointed questions. So, still freelancing. Must be hard living alone. Ever think of remarrying? Or is that not in the cards for you? Everyone laughed awkwardly. I smiled. I always smiled, because power doesn't announce itself, it waits. The barbecue announcement, back to the barbecue. Rachel clinkegged her glass. "Honestly," she said, "selling the resort is emotional, but business is business." My mother-in-law nodded. "You've earned it, honey." Rachel's eyes slid to me again. "Some people marry for love," she said. "Others marry for security." Her eyes dipped briefly, just enough. A jab at my widowhood. I felt something cold settle in my chest, but I didn't react. I never did. Instead, I asked softly, "Oh, when's the closing date?" Rachel blinked. "Oh, next month." Why? I took a sip of lemonade. "No reason," I said. That was the moment. The exact moment she should have stopped talking. The paperwork she never read. Rachel loved control, but she hated details. The resort's legal structure was complex, intentionally, a maze of LLCs, trusts, and silent partners. Mark had signed everything without reading. Rachel never saw the documents. And after Ethan died, something interesting happened. His shares quietly held transferred to me. Not emotionally, not symbolically, legally. And with them came voting power, majority voting power. Enough to stop a sale. Enough to remove executives. Enough to take everything Rachel thought was hers. But I didn't rush. Revenge tastes better when it ripens. The first crack. 2 weeks after the barbecue, Rachel called me, which was unusual. "Hey," she said, fake cheerful. "Quick question, did Ethan ever mention investments?" I leaned back in my chair. "No," I said calmly. "Why?" "Oh, nothing," she laughed too fast. "Just paperwork confusion." That night, I received an email. Subject line, "Urgent ownership verification needed." I smiled. The trap was closing. When they started to panic, the buyers wanted guarantees, proof of authority, signatures. Rachel couldn't provide them. Mark was suddenly sweating. Their lawyers started calling. Then finally they called me, not kindly, not respectfully, desperate. "Listen," Mark said, voice tight, "we need you to sign off on something." "On what?" I asked. "The sale." I paused. "Oh," I said, "you mean my resort." Silence, pure, terrified silence. Rachel didn't come at me screaming. That surprised me. Instead, she tried charm. She showed up at my door 3 days after Mark's phone call, wearing soft colors, hair perfectly curled, holding a box of pastries like we were old friends. "I thought we should talk," she said gently. I stepped aside and let her in. Power doesn't need to slam doors. It lets people walk into their own downfall. The fake apology. She sat at my kitchen table, glancing around like she was finally seeing me for the first time. "I know things were tense after Ethan," she began. "And maybe I wasn't always supportive." I waited. Rachel swallowed. "But family is family," she said, "and I'm sure Ethan wouldn't want conflict." There it was. Using my dead husband as leverage, I folded my hands. "What do you want, Rachel?" She sighed dramatically. "There's just some confusion with the resort paperwork. The lawyers think you may have partial authority." "Partial," I smiled. "Oh," I said, "what gave them that idea?" She leaned in. "If you sign off, everything goes smoothly. You'll be compensated, of course." "How much?" She named a number. It was insulting. I laughed, not loudly, just once. Her smile faltered, the truth she couldn't escape. "Rachel," I said calmly, "how much do you think the resort is worth?" She hesitated. 200 million, maybe more. "And how much do you think Ethan owned?" Her eyes darted. "I don't." "He owned 41%, I said. "And when he died, it became mine." Her face drained of color. "That's not Mark would have known." "Mark signed without reading," I replied. "You should be angry at him." She stood up abruptly. "This is ridiculous," she snapped. "You're trying to scare me." I stood too. "No," I said softly. "I'm telling you the truth." I opened my laptop and turned it toward her. Documents, signatures, ownership charts. Rachel stared. Her hands began to shake when arrogance turns into fear. "You wouldn't," she whispered. "Wouldn't what?" "Take it from us." I met her eyes. "You took everything from me when Ethan died," I said. "You just didn't realize I was keeping score." She backed away like I'd struck her. "You don't belong in that world," she spat. "You don't even act rich." I smiled. "That's because rich people don't need to prove it." She left without another word. But the war had officially begun. The boardroom reckoning. 2 weeks later, I walked into the Seabrook Ridge boardroom for the first time. Rachel froze when she saw me. Executives whispered. Mark looked like he hadn't slept in days. The lead attorney cleared his throat. "We're here to resolve the ownership dispute." I slid my folder across the table. "There is no dispute," I said. "I'm exercising my voting rights." Rachel shot to her feet. "This is insane. She's never even worked here." I didn't look at her. "I'm also filing a motion to remove Mark as acting CEO," I continued, effective immediately. The room went silent. Mark's face collapsed. Rachel screamed, "You can't do this." I finally turned to her. "I already did. The sale that never happened. The buyers backed out within days. News spread fast. Stockholders panicked. Rachel's social media went quiet. The woman who once bragged at a barbecue was suddenly invisible. And then one final meeting. Rachel sat across from me, eyes red, voice hollow. "Please," she said, "just give us something." I studied her. "No," I said simply, "the final family gathering." 3 months later, there was another family event, a quiet dinner. No banners, no bragging. Rachel didn't look at me. My mother-in-law cleared her throat. "We didn't realize how accomplished you were." I sipped my wine. "I didn't realize how invisible I was either," I replied. No one laughed. What I did with the power. I didn't sell the resort. I rebuilt it. New leadership, fair wages, silent success. I donated part of the profits to heart disease research in Ethan's name. Rachel and Mark divorced quietly a year later. No one asked me to pick sides. They already knew where power lived. The lesson she learned too late. Sometimes revenge isn't loud. It doesn't scream or destroy. Sometimes it simply removes people from places they never deserved to stand. At that barbecue, Rachel thought she owned everything. She had no idea. She never bothered to learn. And that was her biggest mistake. The end.